Welcome back to OET writing lessons with oetmedical.co.uk. We're going to follow on in this lesson, lesson 2, to our previous video where we began our letter of referral to Dr. Sally Anderson. So in this lesson we're going to review our letter based on the notes we reviewed in the last lesson. We're going to look at the patient's notes in a bit more detail. So here is our patient history from the previous video. The person is Christian Ola, date of birth, height, weight, allergies nil. Bit of social history, who she lives with, pastimes, and a mention of habits. Doesn't drink or smoke. Bit of family history. Again, you will be looking at things like this. Is it relevant? Is it not relevant? Medical history. Is it relevant? Is it not relevant? Medications. Should be relevant because present medications, not past medications. Present symptoms should be relevant. Anything that's present should be relevant. For example, present history would be relevant. Past medical history, for example, depending on what it is, or what it was, and whether it's directly related to what the patient has now, you will have to decide. So we've got our diagnosis, which we looked at, transient ischemic attack, BP, and our task. So you can stop the video again to look at this. The information we took from the notes are as follows. We followed our 9 steps. Dr. Sally Anderson, it's a referral letter. Things that we need to include, things that we don't need to include, current condition, urgency, or what was the other one? Relative, anything related to her condition. Present symptoms, medical history, and medication. Okay. So we did this in the last letter, but this time I've actually moved it to the left. So this is how your letter will actually look. So I've included a first paragraph. This is just to get you going. There are other ways that you can begin your letter. This is quite a standard way to begin. Go straight to the point. Give the reader the information they're looking for while you're writing the letter. That's the most important thing. So I am writing in reference to the name of the patient, who has been diagnosed with, and then the issue. Your further assessment and diagnosis would be appreciated. So we mean further diagnosis. So further assessment and further diagnosis, because we've already given what we would say is a preliminary diagnosis. So you want them to diagnose again just to confirm that our diagnosis is correct. Because remember, you are sending this to a specialist, so their diagnosis may be more relevant than yours, but it's just to confirm that what you think is wrong with the patient, they can verify. So here's our introductory paragraph. I'm keeping account of the words here because it's very important. When you're first beginning to practice writing letters, what you should do is be aware of your word count. Eventually you'll know roughly what 200 words looks like, so you'll be able to just guess accurately. But for the beginning, my suggestion is just keep an eye on the words, so you don't begin by practicing You don't begin practicing, sorry, by overwriting. So, what I've written here, which is the patient's present condition. Again, the most important information following my introduction. The patient presented recently with signs of numbness in the left side of the face due to possible paralysis, coupled with incoherent speech, which gave her difficulty in comprehending others. Additional symptoms noticed were double vision, loss of balance, and dizziness. After a thorough medical examination, it was determined that the patient is suffering from TIA. Her BP was checked upon admission and was showing a reading of 150/95. So this is the initial paragraph here. And again, yours might be slightly different. This is an example. This is the initial paragraph highlighting the issues and the diagnosis of the patient. The diagnosis words were in the very initial, in the beginning paragraph, but this is the main paragraph that talks about the patient's condition. So I've added the diagnosis. This is how we arrived at the diagnosis. Then a medical history has been included. Pulmonary disease could be related to this. Not being a medical person myself, that's just an idea. So you decide if that's related. And then what I've done here is I've listed some of the patient's medication. I haven't used all of it because there's a lot, as we know, and you will have to use your skill to summarize it down, remove things that aren't necessary, or decide whether you need to write all of it. And then finally, I'd like to refer the patient into your care for further assessment and treatment. This is just asking the specialist if you can do it, because you haven't actually asked them whether you can refer them. It's just polite to say, I would like to refer them to you. So you begin by saying, I would like to refer the patient to you. This is your request. You're requesting it. That should be clearly indicated in your letter. And then standard, if there is any more information you require, please contact me. And then your valediction, yours sincerely, and then your name. This letter has 175 words due to the incomplete list of medication. As a medical professional, you will decide if all the medication needs to be listed or if it can be summarized. As I said before, there's a lot of the medication missing. If you need to include it, it should bring your word count up to between 180 and 200 words with everything that you've read in this letter. Okay, so this is the end of the lesson. So you've got a basic letter template. And in the next lesson, what we're going to do is look at some of the grammatical expressions and how we use different structures and tenses effectively. First, we'll be looking at the passive tense, because the passive tense is quite important in these letters and knowing how to use it. The passive tense also has many forms of the passive tense, so I'm going to run through a few of those so you get an idea of how they're structured and how to use them. Thanks again, and as usual, if you enjoyed this video or if you found it useful, please subscribe to it or our channel, and we would like to make more for you. And also visit our website at www.oetmedical.co.uk to book classes with us. There is also lots of information on the website which you might also find useful. Thank you, and see you in the next lesson.